Good evening and welcome. Family, friends, President Riesberg, Vice President Bongiorno, Vice President Kellerhouse, Senior Vice President McGrath, Vice President Zuhl, alumni, students, faculty, staff, and colleagues. Thank you so much for joining us for our National Nurses Week Distinguished Alumni Recognition Ceremony. For those who may not be familiar with National Nurses Week, it's an event that began as a movement back in the early 1950s to gain recognition for nurses and the important role they play in society. In 1982, President Ronald Reagan designated May 6th as National Nurse Recognition Day. In 1994, the American Nurses Association designated May 6th through May 12th as National Nurses Week. Fittingly, May 12th is the birth date of the founder of modern nursing, Florence Nightingale. In the recent past, the world was presented with an incredible challenge that was well beyond what any of us had ever previously encountered, a global pandemic. It required the world to come together to combine resources and knowledge as we created new alliances and interdisciplinary collaboration. With a common purpose and goal, coalitions formed and set out, each on a designated path to address the crisis. One such coalition is professional nursing. During this time, I have had the amazing experience of working directly with diverse groups of nurses regionally and nationally, as all areas of nursing practice responded to this healthcare crisis. These are incredible professionals, demonstrate tireless dedication, creativity, innovation, resilience, and flexibility as they embody all the very best of professional nursing, all the very best of and timeless teachings of Florence Nightingale. To each, I am beyond proud to call you colleague. It is now my greatest pleasure to introduce Professor Alicia Jones. Alicia chairs the Hartwick College chapter of Sigma Theta Tau International Honor Society and is a member of the Department of Nursing's Events and Community Committee. Alicia holds a BS in nursing from Hartwick College and a BS in psychology with a minor in nutrition from SUNY Oneonta. She has worked as a case manager at Springbrook, a critical care nurse at Bassett Hospital, and as a school nurse in several area school districts. In 2021, she returned to Hartwick College to take on the role of clinical instructor and works with our nursing students on Bassett's medical, surgical, and psychiatric nursing units. Please join me in welcoming Professor Jones.
Good evening, everyone. And thank you, Dr. Gruss, for that nice introduction and warm welcoming. I'm so grateful. I want to thank our recipients for taking the time out of their busy schedules to be with us on a Friday night. And thank you all for joining us tonight to celebrate and recognize Elizabeth Kramer and Nadine Huntsman for their invaluable contributions to nursing. This year's theme for Nurses Week nationwide is Nurses Make a Difference, Anytime, Anywhere, Always. We have chosen two Hartwick nursing alum that couldn't be more deserving of this honor. I would like to now introduce our own Dr. Best. Dr. Melody Best is an alumna of Hartwick Nursing's program who joined the Air Force after a year of practice in general nursing. Dr. Best holds a master's degree from the University of Colorado Health Science Center as a women's health nurse practitioner and clinical nurse specialist in maternal child nursing. Her PhD is from Binghamton University in rural health nursing. Dr. Best's experience includes medical surgical nursing, maternal child nursing, neonatal intensive care nursing, informatics, and simulation. In addition to teaching, she currently serves as the director of simulation for the nursing department here at Hartwick. I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Best.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm going to have the pleasure of introducing Elizabeth Kramer this evening. Elizabeth graduated in 2016 from Hartwick College and worked at Bassett Medical Center for 6 years, where she focused on med surg, pediatrics, and in the special care unit, with most of her time being spent on the birth center. During that time, she became a certified lactation consultant before entering FNP school from 2020 to 2022. During FNP school, she undertook a research study focusing on breastfeeding success rates in rural populations using group prenatal care. After graduation from FNP school, she's now working at a job in OBGYN at Bassett. She served as treasurer of Omicron Rho, again, our Sigma Theta Tau chapter at Hartwick College. She's received numerous academic awards throughout her nursing school time and was recognized several times at Bassett as well for providing excellent nursing care. Please join me in welcoming Elizabeth Kramer.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much, Melody, for that lovely introduction. I'm really very honored to be here talking with everyone tonight. When I think about what brought me to nursing, I do sort of come from a legacy of nurses. My parents are nurses, and my older brother is also a Hartwick nursing alum. But I came to it a little bit later in my mid-20s. I actually started this life as a dancer and had been dancing in New York City and wanted to take a break from that. So I ended up volunteering in Guatemala for a few months. And that really solidified this gut feeling that I think I had always had, that I needed to be of service. And I knew after that volunteer work I did that I needed to be of service in a way that was a little bit more tangible than what I was doing as a dancer. And that's why I went to nursing school. As Melody said, I graduated in 2016 and worked on a few different units at Bassett. And I've served as the treasurer of the Hartwick College chapter of Sigma Theta Tau, and that's mostly just managing the finances. But we did do one really fun thing where I helped organize a virtual turkey trot fundraiser, and that happened during the COVID lockdown. So it was sort of a fun event that raised a little money for the chapter that took place during maybe a not so fun time. I decided I wanted to go back to school in 2019. Graduated in 2022. I did keep working at Bassett as a staff nurse part-time during that time, and started as an NP last fall. I started in primary care and then just recently transitioned to working in OBGYN, which is really where I feel most at home. And getting ready for making these remarks, looking back at the trajectory of my career, I actually sort of wondered, like, what have I done really that is deserving of this? And I had to think, and I realized that my contributions and the impact I make, I think just happen on maybe more of a small scale in the interactions I have with my colleagues and most importantly with my patients. And I realized I don't really talk about my job that much with my partner or my family, but when I do, it's often replaying these moments that feel so meaningful to me. Most recently, this past week, I was sitting in my office and an office assistant came in and she was filling this envelope. And I was like, what's that? And she said, a man dropped it off and he was your patient at your previous job. And I actually immediately knew who she was talking about. I had had 2 visits with this person and he was mostly healthy. So I just took the time to really talk with him and get to know him. And our second visit happened during my last week at that job. And we were talking about what we like to read. And we both like to read the New York Times. And he was excited. He knew I was going into OBGYN and he had read this article on menopause. And I'm so interested in menopause and treating menopause. And he said, I want to make a copy of the article and bring it in for you. And he never did. And then I forgot about it. And a month and a half later, he shows up at my new job in a completely different building in a different part of town and includes this article. But also in the envelope, there were a couple other articles that he thought I'd be interested in and a couple book reviews and just a handwritten note wishing me well. And it was incredibly touching and my heart just felt so full that I had made this connection with this person. And I really just started thinking that we're so very privileged to get to know people the way that we get to know them. When we're working at the bedside, it can feel so hard sometimes, but we're there for these incredibly special moments where we're welcoming new life into the world. Sometimes we're helping people leave the world, and we're honoring those lives that have been lost. And in the in-between, we're taking care of people in their most vulnerable moments. And our nursing educators, who we love so much, they're teaching us, and it's so challenging to be in school, and they're just leading us through these really hard moments, and they're teaching us how to be better. And for me in the clinic, my impact comes from my ability to really listen to patients and treat them with respect and empower them to take charge of their own bodies and their own health care. And every time someone thanks me for taking my time, for being gentle during an exam, or for listening to them and making eye contact with them instead of staring at the computer the whole visit, I just really know that I'm doing something right. And all of this is to say that you don't need to necessarily look distinguished on paper to be distinguished in practice. And I urge everyone who's here listening to remember that a few small words, a kind gesture, taking the time to get to know someone, it might seem small to you, but you're most likely making an indelible mark on their life, and that matters. And thank you so much. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much for those comments, Elizabeth. That really resonates with me as a labor and delivery nurse, seeing people bring new life, having the privilege of being there when they birth is an indelible mark on yourself as a nurse, and also anyone who's had a child can attest to the fact, if any of our students talk to their grandmothers or whomever, they or patients that are suffering from memory loss, they might not remember what they did yesterday, but they can tell you in infinite detail rather, the moments of the birth of their child and the nurse that was with them and what they were doing. For my example, my mom's 88, and she still fondly remembers my fourth sister. I come from a large family of 8, but my number 4 child was born during Elvis Presley's first time on the TV show, and the nurse was mad because she was missing Elvis Presley. So thank you for those words, and I hope our students certainly, I'm sure they'll be taking those things to heart. Our next person to speak with us tonight is also an alum from Hartwick College, Nadine Huntsman. She started her career after graduating from Hartwick College in 2011 on an inpatient surgical unit at Bassett Hospital, and afterwards transferred to an intensive care unit there. She spent 4 years in ICU, got certified as a CCRN, and then transferred to the cardiac cath lab in 2016, where she also took on a leadership role as assistant nurse manager. Transferring back to IC as nurse manager, see, once they get you, they know who the managers are going to be. In 2018, after a year of that, she stepped down into an assistant nurse manager / educator role for a better work-life balance and got back into the bedside a bit. COVID, of course, hit the ICU pretty hard. And at the end of 2021, she transferred back to the cardiac cath lab, where she's been a nurse manager since. She was nominated and chosen by AACN for the Circle of Excellence Award most recently. Please welcome Nadine Huntsman.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Dr. Best, for that introduction. I am very honored and surprised to actually get this award this year, and just very proud as well. My nursing career really kicked off after graduating there. I felt like as a nursing student, I was timid and shy and wasn't someone who really stood out. But getting to the bedside, I just felt natural, and it was just home for me. Critical care was not something that I thought was going to be in my background, or something that I was going to love doing, but it really stuck with me. All I have to say is, if you have dreams and goals, to please go for those things. Management is also something that I just keep going back to. It is something that I struggle with. Sorry, I'm really nervous. It is something that I struggle with work-life balance, because I just give it my all. My staff really appreciate that in me. However, it does kind of, help. I do kind of have to step back sometimes and take a step back. But I've had really great role models. All my career has been at Bassett. I've had really great role models from management there. And those are the ones that actually did nominate me for the Circle of Excellence Award this year from the AACN. Wow, sorry, I'm speaking very fast and I'm having a hard time. I don't really have much else to say besides to the students who are on here to please, follow your dreams, find those role models, and just be there for your patients. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Nadine. Every year we have this event during Nurses Week to spotlight for all of you 2 exceptional Hartwick alum. Thank you, Elizabeth and Nadine, for joining us tonight and for inspiring our nursing students and demonstrating that with a Hartwick education, you can make a difference anytime, anywhere, and always. Thank you all. Have a good night.